What the heck is going on, football fans? DF Stu here. It's week 11. Today we're going to be looking at the main NFL DraftKings slate. We're going to be going game by game, looking at all the fantasy relevant players. And then after that, we're going to take my guys from the video I posted earlier in the week. If you haven't checked that one out, you can find it down there somewhere. But basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking those players and we're going to be creating some DraftKings lineups. As always, the comments, the likes, the subscriptions, they really help me to fit into the YouTube algorithm, and that's just going to help me continue to grow this channel. As a matter of fact, when we do get a video that hits 100 likes for the first time, I'm going to do an Amazon $20 gift card giveaway to my subscribers. But enough of that mumbo jumbo, let's start talking about some football. All right, game one, Atlanta at New Orleans. New Orleans is 4.5-point favorites right now, and the implied game total is sitting at 50.5. Drew Brees will not be playing this week. Matt Ryan's available, and then we got Jameis Winston. I feel like Jameis Winston is going to be fairly highly owned in GPP tournaments. He's a guy that's known to throw a lot of touchdowns, but also a lot of interceptions. I think it's a very interesting play at his low price point. I think it's also going to be very interesting to pair him up with Mr. Michael Thomas, who hasn't had that breakout game yet. Emmanuel Sanders also is looking fairly cheap at $4,900. The Atlanta pass catchers and Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, I mean, they're always fantastic options. They're always priced up. And Russell Gage, I don't think he's any slouch either. At running back, Kamara, priced up. Always well-deserved, amazing player. Todd Gurley gets a lot of touches, hasn't been incredibly efficient this year, but he gets a lot of touches. Maybe Jameis throws a bunch of interceptions, and that leads to Gurley getting some red zone looks right away. Who knows? And then there's Latavius Murray always too. He seems to always get touches. He seems to steal a couple touchdowns in this New Orleans offense, and he's also priced up at $5,900. There are cheaper running backs that I would prefer to go to. If you're very insistent on stacking this game, Latavius Murray might be an option for you, but just keep in mind, he's a backup running back. At tight end, I like Hayden Hurst and I like Jared Cook. There's not a ton of top-end tight end talent on the slate this week, so these are two directions that you could definitely look. Also, something important to note about this game, it's being played in a dome. No weather concerns. Yay! All right, next game up, Detroit at Carolina. This spread is currently still off the books, mainly due to the uncertainty over Teddy Bridgewater and Matt Stafford, their availabilities for this game. So I don't know what I'm going to be doing at quarterback if I play this game. Right now, I'm just avoiding it. At running back, Mike Davis has been priced up to $6,800 instead of the $4,000 that we saw him at last week. DeAndre Swift has finally got a bump up. He had a great game last week. He seems to be securing that starting role at $6,400. Some people might be like, whoa, I paid way less for him in the past. Well, guess what? DeAndre Swift is a freaking awesome running back. Wide receiver, Robbie Anderson's having a great year. Kenny Golladay, he's looking to come back from injury this week. $5,800 is fairly cheap for him. DJ Moore. I like Curtis Samuel also at $4,700. With no CMC, you basically can guarantee that Samuel is going to see at least a couple of carries in this offense. Danny Amendola hasn't been practicing. Just if you want to play him, just monitor his health going forward. I guess I'm not really stacking this game at all. The only player I'm really interested in is Swift, and he will be probably in a decent chunk of my lineups. Hawkinson's there too. Carolina tight ends. Do they know what tight end even is? I don't know. Whatever. All right, next game up. Philadelphia at Cleveland. Cleveland is coming in as 3-point favorites right now, and the implied game total is looking at 47.5 in this one. We've got Carson Wentz versus Baker Mayfield at the quarterback position. Both of them are fairly cheap for quarterbacks this week, but I'm not playing either of them because I think they both suck. At running back, I like Nick Chubb a lot, I like Miles Sanders a lot, and I like Kareem Hunt a lot. I'm going to have a fairly good portion of Miles Sanders in my lineups. As you saw from my video earlier in the week, he was my cover boy, so I got to play him, right? But yeah, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, you can go either way there. More people are probably going to play Chubb, so maybe Hunt if you want to try to get a little bit different, but Nick Chubb's a great running back. Fulgham, Landry, Higgins, Raygor, I like a lot at his price. Alshon Jeffrey at only 3,700. He didn't do anything last week, but if you believe in the Alshon Jeffrey comeback story, then you can go there. At tight end, I like Hooper a lot this week. He's probably one of my 3 tight ends that I'm going to be heavily invested in. Goddard is also an option at the same price point. Next game up, we've got New England at Houston. New England is coming in as 2-point favorites with an implied game total of 48.5. I like Deshaun Watson, and I also like Cam Newton a lot in this game. Here's one little stack that maybe you might be interested in playing. I'm going to go with Watson here with Myers and Cooks, and then you can kind of fill out your lineup with some players from other games. I think that's a really cheap option to stack. But at running back, you've got Harris. He just had a 100-yard game. He hasn't really found the end. He found the end zone once this year so far. Look for him to get to the end zone against a weak Houston defense. Duke Johnson, 5,400, should see all of the work in the Houston backfield. That's pretty cheap. Sexy Rexy's here too if you want to play him. James White is here too. They're cheap, but who knows how New England's going to use their backfield on any given week. They seem to really spread out the targets this year, so keep that in mind if you want to play the New England side of the ball. Will Fuller and Cooks here on Houston, I think they're too cheap, but New England seems to shut down the best player from their opponent's offense, so that might be Will Fuller here. We've got Myers, who I just mentioned. I like him. N'Keal Harry is really cheap. He hasn't really done anything this year. I'd prefer to go Randall Cobb if I want to spend that price in this game. Bird and Ford also exist. We have yet to see what Ford is going to do in this offense. So I'm probably going to avoid the lower end guys in this game. At tight end, this is going to be actually my probably second most played tight end this week, Jordan Aiken. He was the starter, got hurt, Darren Fells took over during that time, and now Jordan Akins is sitting at the absolute minimum price for tight end. If he happens to fall into the end zone, I'm so happy. If he catches like 5 balls, I'm so happy. If you're spending minimum price on a tight end, you're pretty much happy with like 5 points. So keep that in mind. Next one up is Tennessee at Baltimore. Baltimore is 5.5-point favorites right now, and that game's looking at about a 50 over-under. Lamar Jackson is the highest priced quarterback on the slate. He's got his rushing upside. He hasn't really shown us any passing upside this year, but this would be a great spot against Tennessee to actually attack the air. Ryan Tannehill, he's proven to be playable, but he's kind of sucked against good defenses, which makes me more so wanting to go over to running back and play a lot of Derrick Henry. If you look at Baltimore's defense over the whole year, actually, they have given it up on the ground. And in the games that they haven't been giving it up on the ground, well, they were constantly running down the clock, forcing the other team to have to pass to play catch up. So I like Henry a lot. The Baltimore backfield is just like New England's, except it costs even more. Dobbins, Ingram, and Edwards. I think Dobbins is the most talented of the 3, but that hasn't really come into his usage yet. I think he will take over as the starter eventually, but I don't know when, and I'm probably going to just avoid him until I have a better idea of his usage going forwards. Moving over to wide receiver, A.J. Brown, top-end talent, priced that way. Marquise Brown, I think he's a very, very good wide receiver. Lamar Jackson just hasn't been able to actually get the ball in his hands downfield. He's been open. The ball just hasn't been there for him. And at 5,800 only, that's fairly cheap for this guy. He's actually been priced. Let's take a look here. Recent weeks, he's been as high as 6,500 this year. So that's a bit of a discount on a top-end player against a weak defense. Corey Davis, he's had some good games. Willie Snead's been the guy lately that's been turning it on, but I think that's mostly due to the fact that Baltimore has been playing against some tougher defenses, and as their corner shut down guys like Brown, Snead is the other option. Duvernay has also seen a huge portion of looks in this offense, and he's priced at the minimum price, only $3,000. So that'll definitely open some interesting stacks involving this game. At tight end, the two most expensive tight ends on the slate, actually, and Mark Andrews and Jonnu Smith. I think there's other options to pay down at tight end. I'm not the only high-end tight end. I'll spoil it now. Hunter Henry was going to be my guy there. So if you want to play Mark Andrews or Jonnu Smith, I think they're fine plays, especially on a tight end depleted slate. Next game up is Pittsburgh at Jacksonville. Pittsburgh is coming in as 10-point favorites, and that game has an implied total of 46 points. I have a hard time believing that this is going to be a competitive game, so I'm going to avoid stacking this game. There might be some one-off guys that I'm interested in. Ben Roethlisberger, yeah, he's going up against a crappy Jacksonville defense, but that price is too high. I just think there's better options. Jake Luton, I'm not going to play that cat against Pittsburgh. James Conner, if you want to go back to him, he's been burning people. People might not want to play him because they're like, screw this guy. James Robinson's priced pretty low. He's a really, really good running back. Wide receiver, yeah, all the Pittsburgh guys have been priced up a bit. Deontay Johnson, though, I think is still too cheap. And then you got your options on the Jacksonville side of the ball. They're probably going to have to pass the ball if they want to try to catch up in this game. I just don't know how successful they'll actually be at doing that. And that tight end, you got Ebron and Eifert. Probably not playing either of them, but it's up to you, I guess. Sending things on over to Cincinnati at Washington. Washington's coming in as 1-point favorites, and that game total is currently set at 47. I think Joe Burrow and Alex Smith are both pretty good options this game. They're both pretty cheap quarterbacks. I think this is going to be a good game to stack. At running back, I like Gibson a lot. Bernard's perfectly fine. Joe Mixon, he didn't practice today. He looks to not be playing this weekend. But if he is playing, I think he's also a good option. He just hasn't been practicing for weeks. J.D. McKissick, he is an absolute target hog in this offense right now. He has 30 targets over the last 2 weeks. But with that being said, it's taken all those targets to put up only 17 fantasy points. So do what you will with that. He hasn't been efficient as a runner, but as a pass catcher, he lines up in the slot quite a bit too. So if maybe you think that Cincinnati is going to be able to put up the points, Washington's going to have to throw it to put up the points too, and J.D. McKissick's going to get the ball a lot if that's the case. At wide receiver, McLaurin, he's a great wide receiver. I think he's still underpriced. T. Higgins is good. Tyler Boyd's a little bit underpriced. He should probably always be more expensive than Higgins, but what do I know, right? A.J. Green, he's there. I'm not going A.J. Green's direction. And then these cheap guys on the Washington side, maybe you can find some value, but I'm personally not interested. I'd rather go to Logan Thomas if I want to get some cheap value in this game. One little stack you can do maybe is go McLaurin with Tyler Boyd, take Joe Burrow as your quarterback, and then put in a cheap defense, a cheap tight end, and then you're going to be able to get 3 stud running backs in. So that's definitely a good look, I think, for lineup building this week. Next game up is Miami at Denver. Miami's coming in as 3.5-point favorites, and that game's got an implied total of 45 right now. Tua, I haven't seen enough out of Tua to make me want to play him. Drew Lock, I'm not sure if he's even going to be playing this weekend. I'd be monitoring his health going forwards if that's a direction you want to go. At running back, I was super interested in Ahmed. He had a great game last week, but Breda, he practiced today, and he might suit up and take all the carries out of nowhere, but I will have some Ahmed and maybe a little bit of Breda as well to get a little bit different. But the Denver side of things, I'm not interested at all. At wide receiver, Parker, you could go there. Judy, you could go there. I like Hamler a lot, actually. Hamler's a very good option at a cheap price here. Tight end, I like Fant, and I like Gesicki. I probably won't pay up too much for them. I'm going to have a lot of Jordan Akins and Hooper. Next game up is the Jets at the Chargers. The Chargers are 10-point favorites right now, and that game's looking at a 47-point implied total. Herbert might actually be my favorite quarterback on the slate this week. I really like pairing him up with Keenan Allen right now against the Jets' weak defense. I'm not going to go Flacco's way at all because why would I go Joe Flacco in 2020? Like, what? Keelan Ballage seems to be the bell cow in this backfield. If you're into the revenge game narrative, that's there this week. Pirine, he's going to get the carries for the Jets, but they're the carries for the Jets. So just keep that in mind if you want to lock in Pirine. Wide receiver, Allen's fantastic. Crowder's really good. Mike Williams is kind of a roller coaster kind of player, but maybe this is the game that we're going to be on top of things. Perriman, great week last week. He's questionable. If you're interested in playing him, monitor his health come Sunday morning. Guyton is actually a guy that I'm seeing pop up in my lineups a lot. Maybe they sit Allen a little bit because they're playing against the Jets, and then all of a sudden Guyton, who saw a career high in snaps last week, has a great game. He's already caught some deep touchdowns. And then Mims is another pretty cool option at only 3,300. At tight end, I'm going to have a lot of Hunter Henry. He's going to be the most expensive tight end that I'm probably even going to play this week. And then Herndon, he was hyped up a lot at the beginning of the year, but he hasn't shown me anything worthwhile playing him. Anyone on the Jets side is really, really hard to want to play, except for maybe, for me, Crowder and Mims this week. Next up, we got Green Bay at Indianapolis. Indianapolis is coming in as 2-point favorites right now, and that game's looking at a 51.5 implied total. You got Rodgers and Rivers. A lot to like with Rodgers. He's the second most expensive quarterback, however, on the slate this week. But his passing options are very obvious. He's going to be throwing it to Devontae Adams, and he's going to be throwing it to Allen Lazard, who's coming back this week. I don't think he likes Valdez-Scantling, even though Valdez-Scantling did have a fantastic week last week. I was not interested in playing him at all, and he proved me wrong. But, you know, that happens. And then if you want to do this little stack, you could throw in maybe T.Y. Hilton on the other side. 4,200 for T.Y. Hilton. Tell me that a couple of years ago. I'd have been like, you nuts. But whatever. And then I always like Trey Burton. He always has the potential to get into the end zone. Mo Alley Cox and Jack Doyle, I don't like them because they eat into Trey Burton's receptions, which sucks, but that's what's keeping Trey Burton priced down so low. And then Robert Tonyan's there as well. I'm not going to play Robert Tonyan, but I understand why you would. He had a 3-touchdown game earlier in the year. What happens if that happens again and I don't play him? That would suck, right? And then at running back, you've got Aaron Jones, who everybody played Aaron Jones last week, and everybody was disappointed by Aaron Jones last week. So maybe people are off of him this week and you want to go back to him. I think it's a pretty good option. I mean, he's one of the best running backs in the league after all. Williams does have a role in that offense, however. And then if you want to roll the dice with one of the Indianapolis running backs, the last couple of weeks have been a real crapshoot for them. I don't know who to play. Like, I want to play Hines because he's got that passing upside. But what if they just go back to Taylor? I mean, they invested in him earlier in the year. Why would they not go back to him? Is he bad? Is he hurt? I don't know. And then last but not least, we've got Dallas at Minnesota. Minnesota's coming in as 7-point favorites right now, and that game's looking at a 47.5 implied total. You got Kirk Cousins and Andy Dalton. You can go either direction, actually, in this game. I probably not going to play a quarterback from this game, but I can see the upside of wanting to play a guy like Cousins or Dalton. It'd be kind of like getting a little bit different since everybody's going to be playing Dalvin Cook this week, I believe. Ezekiel Elliott at 6,500 is making me at least interested. I'm not sure if I will play him yet, but that price it's fairly intriguing. At wide receiver, Thielen and Jefferson, they're great. Amari Cooper, only 5,400. This guy's elite. He costs only 5,400. CeeDee Lamb at 5K. And then Gallup at 3,700. Do you think the Dallas pass catchers will be able to get anything done with Andy Dalton at the helm? I think it's better than having DiNucci at the helm. And Minnesota's defense is not great. At tight end, you got Schultz. And then you've got Irv Smith might be coming back, or Kyle Rudolph. I'm probably not going to play any tight ends from this game, though, however. Maybe the odd Schultz if I stack this game a little bit, but we'll see. All right. It's time to start building some lineups. I've already put one together here. I put in my 5 guys, Watson, Sanders, Thomas, Hooper, and the Falcons defense, and I rounded it out with some players that I think make a lot of sense here. So what I did was, since I had Deshaun Watson, I paired him up with Cooks, and then on the other side, Myers, that little stack I had mentioned earlier. And then I also included Burkhead. Maybe this is the most high-scoring game on the slate. Maybe Burkhead has to find the end zone to prove his value, so I understand being a little bit wary. You also have Ahmed at that area if you want to go there instead, but I really wanted to get the big dog Henry in because I think this is a really good spot for him to smash it. If both Tennessee and Baltimore are sitting at 6-3 right now, if Tennessee wants to continue to win games, they're going to have to get their best player the ball, and their best player is Derrick Henry. So here's another direction that I believe that you can take this lineup. We still have our 5 guys in there, but what we did was instead of Cooks, we went with Fuller, and instead of Myers, we went with Byrd. Byrd has been getting a lot of targets in this offense. Fuller is the best wide receiver on Houston. Maybe you're afraid that the New England corners are going to shut him down. That's perfectly understandable. That's why I went with Cooks in the first example. Maybe you think Cooks is going to be the one that gets shut down. Well, that's perfectly acceptable. I went with Fuller for the second example. And then the thing I like the most about this lineup, we've got 3 stud running backs. Sanders, Swift, Chubb, all great running backs. They could be the best 3 running backs on the slate this week. Who knows? And here's one last option with what I believe will be the highest owned player this week, Dalvin Cook included. Instead of going with Hooper, I swapped him out with Akins, but I really like Akins in this spot too because Deshaun Watson is his quarterback. So I went Watson with Cooks and Akins. On the other side of the ball, we've got Harris. We've got Harris, Cook, and Sanders, 3 stud running backs. And then Thomas, he's a great wide receiver. Cooks, he's a great wide receiver. And Higgins, he is the number 2 wide receiver now in Cleveland with OBJ being out. And he's also got some chemistry with Baker Mayfield. So with that mini stack of Sanders and Higgins, I also really like this lineup. Well, that just about wraps things up for me this week. I hope you learned something about building better DraftKings lineups. If you could go ahead and hit that like button or hit that subscribe button, it really helps me to fit into the YouTube algorithm. Also, once we do hit 100 likes, I'm going to give away a $20 Amazon gift card to one of my subscribers, so look out for that in the future. If you got a stack you really like this coming weekend, why don't you leave me a comment down below and maybe we can go back and forth and try to figure out what the best lineup you can build using your stack is. But hey, best of luck to everybody out there this weekend. Be responsible. Until next time, DF Stu, out.